laksanakan Dhamma bagi Syailendra, oh Syailendra, berlandaskan Pancasila, jalankan sila samaripana, ajaran mulia Sang Buddha, buanglah ego, bulatkan tekad, hapuskan loba dosa bohong, sucikan hati serta pikiran sebagai duta-duta Dhamma. Lama kita menanti cahaya terang di bumi, untuk terangi kegelapan, untuk tegakkan kebenaran. Syailendra telah berdiri, wujud nyata kebulatan hati, menuju cita-cita suci, laksanakan Dhamma bagi Syailendra, oh Syailendra, berlandaskan Pancasila, jalankan sila samaripana, ajaran mulia Sang Buddha, buanglah ego, bulatkan tekad, hapuskan loba dosa bohong, sucikan hati serta pikiran sebagai duta-duta Dhamma. Lama kita menanti cahaya terang di bumi, untuk terangi kegelapan, untuk tegakkan kebenaran. Syailendra telah berdiri, wujud nyata kebulatan hati, menuju cita-cita suci, laksanakan Dhamma bagi Syailendra, oh Syailendra, berlandaskan Pancasila, jalankan sila samaripana, ajaran mulia Sang Buddha, buanglah ego, bulatkan tekad, hapuskan loba dosa bohong, sucikan hati serta pikiran sebagai duta-duta Dhamma. Lama kita menanti cahaya terang di bumi, untuk terangi kegelapan, untuk tegakkan kebenaran. Syailendra telah berdiri, wujud nyata kebulatan hati, menuju cita-cita suci, laksanakan Dhamma bagi Syailendra, oh Syailendra, berlandaskan Pancasila, jalankan sila samaripana, ajaran mulia Sang Buddha, buanglah ego,
Venerable Sangha members, ladies and gentlemen, all webinar participants, good evening and Namo Buddhaya. On behalf of Syailendra Buddhist College, I would like to warmly welcome to our keynote speaker, moderator, as well as all participants to Syailendra Webinar Series 1, Buddhism and Crisis. Before we start our program, I would like to inform to all participants some rules of this webinar. Number 1, the event will take place from 7 up to 9 p.m. Indonesian time. Participants are requested to mute during the event, except during the question and answer session. Participants are welcome to ask questions in the Q&A session using raise hand as well as via room chat by mentioning name, institution, question addressed to whom, and short question. Participants must fill up the attendance forms as well as the feedback form. Special for the e-certificate link form will be distributed via chat on our room Zoom after Q&A session. And to open our webinar, let's begin with Tri Ratna Puja, paying homage to the Tri Ratna. And I would like to invite all participants to hold your hands in front of your chest in Anjali position. We will start with Nama Kara Pata. Arahang Sama Sambuddho Bhagawa Buddhang Bhagawantang Abhivademi Swagato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. And now is the time for Syailendra Mass. And now, to open our webinar, we would like to invite Venerable Dr. Jotidhammo Mahathera to deliver his keynote speech. Venerable Dr. Jotidhammo Mahathera, he was graduated from Dhamma University on doctoral program on philosophy. Now, he is acting as chairman of the trustees of Pendidikan Dharma Syailendra Foundation. He is also acting as the head of quality assurance of Syailendra Buddhist College, as well as he is chairman of the Elders Council of the Indonesian Theravada Sangha. Please welcome Venerable Dr. Jotidhammo Mahathera, our keynote speaker.
Buddhism and Crisis. The crisis that is happening in the world today after the COVID pandemic, then war broke out in Ukraine, so that various crises emerged as a result of the chaos. Humans who create chaos, and of course, humans also can overcome the chaos. The social crisis has resulted in widespread social problems for the community. Both the energy crisis, the food crisis, and the economic crisis. What is the solution to the crisis? First and foremost is the ability of state leaders who are good in controlling and directing the country so as not to get caught in a crisis. Government leaders must really be responsible for running the state government, have morals and ethics as a government leader. Government ethics that prioritize the welfare of the people must be upheld. Power for the people, instead of using the people to strengthen power. The mentality of government leaders is very decisive for solving the current crisis. The second is that the people need to cooperate with each other to overcome the crisis. Sacrifice of life is very necessary. Mutual giving, mutual patience, mutual enthusiasm, mutual love, and mutual understanding. So it takes the mentality of people who grow up in wisdom. Awareness of what the Buddha has taught will overcome the crisis. I would like to thank the Most Venerable Dr. Deniyaye Deniyaye Pannaloka Buddharakkhita from Kalyani Buddhist Monastery, Sri Lanka, who was willing to participate in the Buddhism and Crisis webinar organized by Syailendra Buddhist College, Central Java, Indonesia. I hope this Buddhism and Crisis webinar can be well and successful. Hope Triple Gems always blessing us. May all living beings be happy. Thank you.
We are also very thankful and thank you so much to Venerable Dr. Jotidhammo Mahathera for giving sharp and very meaningful keynote speech. Now is our time to invite our moderator to this webinar to lead and to guide our webinar. Please welcome Dr. Hastho Bramantyo, Master of Art. Dr. Hastho Bramantyo, he was senior lecturer at Syailendra Buddhist College. He was graduated from doctoral program on philosophy at Gajah Mada University, Yogyakarta, Indonesia. Please welcome Dr. Hastho Bramantyo, our moderator. Welcome Pak Bram, selamat datang.
Thank you, Bu Gustiani.
Yeah.
Venerable members of Sangha and distinguished participants of this webinar, I will introduce you a little by reading the curriculum vitae of our most distinguished Venerable Pannaloka Buddharakkhita from Kalyani University, Sri Lanka. Okay. Our speaker today is a very important person, Venerable Doctor. His name is Venerable Dr. Pannaloka Buddharakkhita Thera, and in the academic position is a senior lecturer on Pali and Buddhist studies at Kalyani Buddhist University. He lives in Kalyani Temple, Sri Lanka. Academic career education in 1996. Venerable Pannaloka graduated from University of Kalyani, Sri Lanka, and then in 1997 appointed as a lecturer in the same university, and in 2009 Venerable Pannaloka graduate researcher, graduate school of humanities from Kyushu University, Japan. Wow, it's very outstanding. And three of his most famous articles and books is he wrote then more than 20 books, and the articles which is very outstanding for me is this transferring merit or punya as taught in early Buddhism, and then dissemination of the Dhamma to the global village, karma, gods and beings. Venerable members of Sangha and distinguished participants, this is very, very important book you can search on Google. And today we will listen to Venerable Pannaloka speeches about Buddhism and Crisis. As we know, in our present situation, we have faced many difficulties. The most recent one is the pandemic COVID-19 that influenced many areas of our life and giving difficulties and suffering to members of humanity. And it challenges world religion. Now the question is how Buddhism responds to this crisis and to this problem in our time. And in other words, do Buddhism have something to offer to the humanity? So I will give the time to Most Venerable Deniyaye Pannaloka Thera, and Venerable Pannaloka will talk for about 30 minutes, and periodically I will translate his speeches into Indonesian language. Most Venerable Pannaloka Thera, the time is yours.
Good evening, everyone. Venerable members of the Mahasangha, and professors, doctors, and participants. I'm thankful very much to the organizers and the Syailendra Buddhist College for inviting me to deliver this speech, especially Venerable Medachitto and the organizing committee of Syailendra Buddhist College. It's great pleasure for me to be with you in this evening to share some of my thoughts and some of my experience in reading Buddhist scriptures, in finding solutions, answers to modern problems. Now, I don't want to take much of your time, so I will directly go to sharing screen. Then we will start the subject-wise discussion. If you have any question, you can ask me at the end of the session. Now, you know that when we study Buddhism, when we are students of Buddhism, or when we do research as academics in Buddhism, many people would ask one very simple question. That is, Buddhism is already 2,600 years old, and it was taught to people in India many hundred years ago. So, how we can find solutions to hard problems of such a sophisticated society like today with those age-old teachings? This is a very common question that could arise even in the mind of students, that we are learning, we are studying, we are reading a system of teaching which is very old, and how that could be helpful for us today who are living many hundred years after the Buddha. Now, today in this discussion, to understand Buddhism deeper with you, I want to share how we can look at these problems from the Buddhist point of view. Now, the theme assigned for me was Buddhism and Crisis. Here, now, when we look at the English literature available for reading for the study of Buddhism, academic works and those works meant for general public, there are three general introductions to Buddhism. Now, we know that Buddhism is an English form of the word for the teachings of the Buddha. We have the traditional classical terms like Dhamma or Buddhavachana. Dhamma is the teaching used by the Buddha for his teachings, and in the Buddha's lifetime, his disciples used the term Buddhavachana. With recent studies in the light of philosophy, science, and when it comes to be translated and interpreted in Western languages, Buddhism came to be introduced as a philosophy. So we have what is called Buddhist philosophy. Even in our Kalyani University, we have one subject stream called Buddhist philosophy. Then also with the general public, in our general society, we recognize there are customs, traditions, festivals, arts, crafts, architecture, etc., which are components of a religion and being a religious way of thinking. And more than that, recently, Buddhist scholars and those who understand Buddhism from its original sources, they like to interpret Buddhism as a way of life. Buddhism teaches us how to live from morning to evening and from birth to death. When we are born as human beings, as children as young people, as elders, as matured ones, how we should live our life. So Buddhism teaches us that way. And how to organize, how to reorganize, how to restructure our thoughts, words, and deeds. Therefore, some scholars, some Buddhist scholars, they like to introduce Buddhism as a way of life. Generally, we have these three introductions, epithets to introduce the teachings of the Buddha. Buddhism, the teachings of the Buddha as a philosophy, as a religion, and a way of life. Of course, that you can argue. For some say it is a philosophy, but a religion. Some say it's more a religion and like that. And there are some others who want to introduce Buddhism as a way of life. I like the third one, Buddhism as a way of life. Then, I'm sorry I am using some Pali terms, but don't worry very much about them. Buddhism has a theory and practice, you know. Here theory, I am going to introduce the theory, what is the theory of Buddhism, and what is the kind of practice within it. In Pali, this theory taught by the Buddha, theories taught by the Buddha, are given by this term, dassana, jnana dassana, or vijja, like vijja uddapati, as we see in the first sermon of the Buddha's first sermon, Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. So the theory, main theory, major theory, like central philosophy, the core part of philosophy in Buddhism is called Paticca Samuppada. Paticca Samuppada. We translate it into English as theory of causality. I have quoted two evidences. You are students, you can check it later in the original sources. One from Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta number 28, Mahahatti Padopama Sutta. Second one from Mahavagga Mahakhandaka of the Vinaya Pitaka. Don't very much worry about those heavy Pali words, but generally it says, Yo paticca samuppadam passati so dhammam passati. Yo dhammam passati so mang passati. One who sees theory of causality, he sees the Dhamma. One who sees the Dhamma, he sees the Buddha. Mang here means the Buddha. Buddha is declaring so. So if anyone is willing to see the Buddha in its original nature, if anyone wants to understand the Buddha as the Buddha is, then we have to see the Dhamma. Through the Dhamma, through understanding the Dhamma, through realizing the Dhamma, by knowing the Dhamma, we can know the real Buddha. To know the real Dhamma, to know and understand the real Dhamma, we have to understand what is called Paticca Samuppada, theory of causality. So Buddhism uses this theory of causality in explaining, analyzing, and teaching all problems related to human life as well as social life, human social life. Therefore, we take this Paticca Samuppada as the central philosophy, as it is named by famous Professor David J. Kalupahana, a central philosophy of Buddhism, right? The Paticca Samuppada. Then the same is again emphasized in another episode. We read in Vinaya Pitaka Mahavagga Mahakhandaka, that is this Arahant Sariputta and Arahant Moggallana, two chief disciples of the Buddha. Before they became disciples of the Buddha, they were called Kolita and Upatissa when they were laymen. So once in one unexpected meeting, they met one of the Panchavakya Bhikkhu, one of the 5 disciples of the Buddha who listened to the Buddha for the first time. We know the 5 monks who listened to the first sermon of the Buddha. So the last one is Venerable Assaji. This Polita Upadisa, in their lay names, who later were Arahant Sariput and Moggallana, when they met Venerable Arahant Assaji, who was the last one of group of 5 monks, Panchavakya people. So, having seen the pleasantness, serenity, peacefulness, and happiness depicted in the behavior of Venerable Assaji, Arahant Assaji, these two, they asked, who are you? And who is your teacher? You know that this was a very general question related to religious practitioners in 6th century BC. If they know, they understand that you practice a kind of religion, they ask, how about you? And who is your teacher? And what is the teaching that your teacher teaches? Because there were many teachers, many religious teachers. So, Venerable Arahant Assaji answered with this gatha, Ye Dhamma Hetu Abhava Tesang Hetung Tathagato Aha Tesang Cha Yo Nirodho Evang Vadi Maha Samano. Tesang Cha Yo Nirodho Evang Vadi Maha Samano. Simply I will translate it in English. That is, if there is any cause for the arising of things, the Buddha taught us, along with its path of ceasing. So that is the theory of causality, how things come into being and how they happen to cease. Evam Vadi Maha Samano. This is the theory of the Buddha. So it becomes very clear, Paticca Samuppada, theory of causality, is the main theory of Buddhism. This is very much relevant to understanding crises that are related to our life and our society. Secondly, we have the practice of Buddhism. That is called charan. Charan. No doubt that Ariya Attangika Magga, Ariya noble, Attangika eightfold, Magga means path. Eightfold noble path begins with Samma Ditti, Samma Sankappa, etc. is the way of life, way of practice that that is recommended for disciples of the Buddha, whether they are lay people or ordained ones, whether they are monks or not. So this is very much emphasized in two. There are many sutras, but I will cite two of them: Majjhima Nikaya number 9, Sammaditthi Sutta, and Majjhima Nikaya Sutta number 70, that is Kitagiri Sutta. So for your later reference. Then this is a very simple, very general introduction to what crisis is. Crisis. Generally, crisis is defined like this: time, time period, a period of time of intense difficulty with very strong, intense difficulty and danger. So the crisis is a kind of time period of time. It has two major characteristics. One is, it is with intense difficulty, very difficult for everyone, then full of danger for us, for human life, for our existence. Then again, such crises with intense difficulty and dangers could be of two kinds: man-made crisis and natural crisis, as I have given below. So, no need to give details. Most Venerable Jotidhammo Thera also mentioned in his keynote speech. Now, war, environmental pollution, drug menace, human trafficking. Sorry, this should be in one line. Human trafficking. Then abuse of human beings, abuse of rights, abuse of women, then abuse of nature, abuse of animal and plant life, kind of human-made, man-made crisis in the world. Then discrimination, hunger, poverty, the prevailing political systems, economical systems, social structures would make some part, one portion of society to face hunger, poverty, etc. So, among the kind of crises we face in this world, a bigger number of them is man-made crisis. Then, of course, we know this kind of natural, like tsunami. Tsu means seashore. Nami means the wave. Those huge waves that overgo the seashore, according to Japanese meaning. So that is tsunami. Volcanic eruptions, wildfire, tornado, earthquakes, flood, hurricane, drought, and of course, not given here, pandemic like COVID-19. Those are, we don't know exactly even now whether it is man-made or nature-made. But anyhow, for time being, we can put it into the basket of nature. Now we are coming to one of the major important point in my this discussion. Buddhism, the teachings of the Buddha, philosophy of the Buddha, sees through more of human responsibility and involvement of inherent human weaknesses in crisis. So this kind of man-made crisis have two important things: the human responsibility therein and involvement of inherent human weaknesses. Now, if we look at those examples like war, discrimination, then how to say, the instability, those examples given in the previous section. So, of course, we can see the responsibility of those human beings and involvement of inherent human weaknesses in this crisis. Now, we are a part of crisis. We experience the difficulties of crisis, and also we may be contributing to that crisis, and also we, with our responsibility, with the involvement of inherent human weaknesses, everyone in society could be those who are responsible for the crisis. You know, I have heard one episode, that is one day one professor of sociology, his specialty was the study of crimes. So having completed his doctoral thesis, he was invited for the public defense, where he has to present his theory, and that will be followed by question and answers. He came on the stage and started addressing the entire audience in that hall. My dear friends, who have already committed crimes at least once in your life. So, according to his interpretation, according to his understanding, he says everyone in society has been, in one way or other, responsible for the crises that are prevalent in society, the difficulties we are experiencing. Now, from that we go to the next point. It says, thus, in Samyutta Nikaya, section number 5, Sutta number 59, we have a sutta called Ogha Sutta. Ogha, it's very clear if you check the Pali dictionary. means flood or torrent, very strong flow of water you experience after huge heavy rain, flood, torrent, the very strong flow of water which is harmful for everyone. Buddhism says the human thinking, human imagination, when they go wrong, when they become strong, when they become dangerous, when they become harmful, they could be like flood or torrent, and those can be divided into four. Karma, lust or sensuality. The desire for lust, desire for sensuality at an unexpected time in human mind could rise like an ogre, or torrent. The next one is bhava, existence. To exist as a person, to exist as a village, to exist as a country, to exist as a nature. They think they should exist, not the others. They should live in the expense of the life of others. So, inherent feeling for existence at the expense of the life of others is like a torrent of flood. Then ditti, ditti generally means views. When it is wrong, we call michaditti. Wrong views, wrong ideologies, some letters missing, ideologies, then dogmas. Now we know in the world, time to time, even now, there are strong wrong views, strong ideologies, strong dogmas. Once they are accepted, once they are followed, they are harmful not only for the person but for everyone. You can think of many examples of such wrong views, wrong ideologies and dogmas. Then avijja, ignorance, that we don't know what life really is. We don't know what world really is. We don't know properly what this universe really is. Therefore, we use the things, sources, powers, hidden powers of it in wrong way. That is why Buddhism says, seeing the reality, truth, through Buddhism is yatha bhuta, jnana darsana. See things as they are. Understand things as they are. Understand the life as it is. Understand the human mind as it is. That is the seeing of truth, understanding of truth. Always avijja covers the reality, avijja covers the truth. Therefore, when we think, when we talk, when we behave, controlled by avijja, that is leading to kind of harmful flood, harmful torrent. So these are inherent weaknesses, inherent human weaknesses that human beings need to cope up with. Human beings need to address with the spiritual advancement, peaceful mind and understanding the reality of oneself. Then I am coming to another example from the teachings of the Buddha. That is, it's in the next page. Dhammapada verse number 25. Dhammapada verse number 25. Uttanena pamadena sanyamena dhamena Deepang kairatha medhavi yang ogho na bhikirati. That same word ogha comes here. Buddha teaches us four qualities, four wonderful qualities to develop within us. to cultivate within us, to overcome the ogres, overcome those floods of wrong thoughts, floods of wrong acts and activities. I am quoting from Narada Thera translation, published many decades ago. So this translation is from Venerable Narada Thera's translation of Dhammapada. By sustained effort, earnestness, discipline and self-control. There are four. Sustained effort, that is utthana. Earnestness, appamada. Discipline, that is sanyama. Self-control, dhamma. I think in Bahasa Indonesia, you can understand them more closely because you have Sanskrit origins. Utthana, sustained efforts, which that is a quality we need to overcome those torrents of wrong thinking, wrong ideas, wrong acts and activities. Another next one, Buddha teaches earnestness, appamada, vigilance. Then sanyama in its Pali form, sanyama, Sanskrit form sanyama, discipline, and dhamma means self-control. With these four, by sustained effort, earnestness, discipline, and self-control, led the wise man, Panyavanto Puriso, Panyava, make for himself an island which no flood overwhelmed. Here, flood means those four kinds of floods: kama, bhava, ditti, avijja. They come and overcome you. So the qualities that we have to develop as human beings are sustained effort, earnestness, discipline, and self-control. So I think I have come to the time. I have limited my presentation today to to these 2 points. That is the human responsibility, and involvement of inherent human weaknesses in forming, creating, spreading crisis in the world. What we have to think, what we have to understand is that we are living a temporary life on this earth, that we all are subject to anicca. Therefore, within our lifetime, during our lifetime, it's very important that we are not harmful to ourselves, we are not harmful to other human beings, and we are not harmful to other non-human beings and to the entire living system in this universe. This is one very important message Buddha teaches to the world in understanding the crisis and solutions related to them. So I share this document with you, which is a very short one. And in this part of discussion, I did not touch these huge social problems, etc. But in question and answer session, if you have any, I would like to answer from my side as questions come from me. So though it is very short, here I would like to wind up my presentation. Thank you very much for your kind and patient listening to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Venerable Deniyaye Pannaloka Thera, for your very insightful and clear, although simple presentation. And Venerable members of the Sangha and distinguished participants, we know from Venerable Pannaloka presentation that Venerable Pannaloka emphasizes the human responsibility and also the inherent weaknesses that we have as human beings in facing the crisis. Sometimes I noted what Venerable Pannaloka Thera says, sometimes we also contribute to the crisis. But now it's time to venerable members of the Sangha and distinguished participants to raise question. I think question is and answers is very important for us. Question wakes us up to focus our attention to this topic, which is Buddhism and Crisis. You can ask Venerable Pannaloka question about the relationship between this very fundamental theory and teaching of Lord Buddha in contradistinction with the present crisis and problems. As I said before, do Buddhism has something to offer, at least to understand the crisis and the problems, and then how best Buddhism can answer to that crisis. Please, now the time is yours, and Venerable Pannaloka could sit still and breathe, waiting for the participant to ask questions. Okay, please. Please raise your hand, or you may also write on chat room. Preferably, we prefer that you ask question in English. Yeah, but if not, we can translate to Venerable Pannaloka. Feel free to speak in Indonesian too. Okay. Yes.
There is a participant by name Maulana Bilal. He is raising his hand.
Okay. Okay, please. Yeah. Directly to Venerable Pannaloka.
Okay. Thanks for the time, Mr. Bramantyo. And my name is Maulana Bilal Prabowo, but I commonly called as Nanang. So, Highness the Bhikkhu, I want to ask some question about this theme. So, in the first phase of discussion, we've been talking about how we overcome crisis in Buddhism. With Buddhism, how we can overcome crisis with Buddhism. It's actually good thinking that we have to make some compassion to the crisis, both the subject and the object of crisis. And sometimes the reality of, the world, most of them, I can't say most of them, but we know that sometimes when we make compassion with the source of crisis, just call it maybe economic crisis or political crisis, sometimes, quote unquote, it didn't work. But how do you think that, I'm sorry, I want to straight to my question, how to overcome this postmodern crisis with Buddhism touch, maybe? It's actually my question. So the context is postmodernism, like, our century is 21st century.
Thank you very much for your question.
Okay, you're welcome.
Yeah. As I understand, postmodernism has its good aspects and as well as, how to say, black side of it. So, when we look at postmodernism, that we have to keep it in a very balanced position and observe it very carefully. As I understand and as I have experience in Sri Lankan context, here we are being a Buddhist country, Buddhist society, this postmodernism kind of thinking has given some eye-opening, how to say, outlook in understanding and challenging the historical understanding of the world. Then, secondly, by challenging, how to say, the traditional thinking, traditional ways of life, etc., it looks like that it's heading somewhere that no end could be seen. Now, for the postmodern kind of thinking, as I experience it around me here, those thinkers, of course, they are very much open-minded in discussing, how to say, the traditionally kept, then age-old traditions, etc., whether they are further valid in a time like ours. That is, I think, a very good side of it, because Buddhism always encourages sort of a critical outlook, that you have to look at the society very critically. That as we read in the Kalama Sutta, that we don't have to accept or how to say, follow something because it is traditional, because it is coming from our ancestors, and because it comes from text, etc. This kind of very open outlook and open approach in understanding human life, I think I understand that as a very good side of postmodernist thinking when we look at it in a very broader sense. Secondly, as one very old Indian saying teaches us, nothing is bad because they are old, and nothing is good because they are new. So our critical outlook, critical understanding, critical look at understanding of things, if it is heading nowhere, if it is not heading for any good results, then there is a danger within it. Now, what Buddhism teaches basically, according to my reading, is that the society has changed, tools has changed, the tools of our civilization has changed. But Buddhism says that human life, human being is controlled, or how to say, governed by three inherent psychic waves. Like I saw one example that the tree of life has three rules. It was explained like that by Bhikkhu Bodhi, American monk who led the Buddhist Publication Society in Kandy. So that aspect, that we are governed and led by this lobha, dosa, moha, lust, aversion and ignorance, that fact has not changed. Now, we in Asia, we are in South Asia, you are in East Asia. When we go to East Asian countries or European countries or into the Scandinavian countries, the civilization, we see the tools people use, totally different. But those mental characteristics, mental qualities inherent within them are the same as explained by the Buddha. Therefore, even now what we call this postmodern society, even now when we analyze the human nature, human characteristics, the function of human mind, still I very strongly feel that the light of Buddhism, teachings of Buddhism is very helpful in understanding human mind. That is what basically we have to do. Understand who I am and what my mind is. When I understand who I am and what my mind is, it is a great light to understand what other is. So, there is a, how to say, one about the Shataka. It says that Atmavat Sarva Bhutesu Yah Pashyati, and vice versa. You can look at as I see me, as I feel me, as I understand me, if I can understand of other human beings from other countries, other cultures, from other religions, other geographical arenas, and if actually Buddhism goes further, Buddhism says that not only human beings, but also we have to look at and understand other living things, that they also how to say, they dear their life. The main purpose, main aim, main happiness is to protect one's life and to live a happy life, to to live a peaceful life. These things are inherent in all beings alike, not only within human. So even in postmodern society, in understanding human mind, in understanding the mind of beings, the light of Buddhism, light of the teachings of the Buddha is very helpful. Therefore, it leads once again, in analyzing the crisis in our times as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Venerable. I think Mr. Maulana or Mr. Nanang has got the answer.
Yeah. Thank you, Highness.
Okay.
It's a really coherent answer, and it's really explain how Buddhism can cooperate with postmodern thinking and postmodern condition like that. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Maulana. Namo Buddhaya. Venerable Pannaloka, next question comes from Mr. Toto from Yogyakarta. He wants to ask actually two questions, not three. One, I want to know about Sri Lankan crisis, economic crisis recently. What happens there, Venerable? Is there any Buddhist movement to solve that crisis? And number two, as a Buddhist country, is there any value of Buddha's teaching to the Sri Lankan when they face crisis? Is there any different way or different view to solve the crisis? Okay, and then second question from YouTube. Venerable, is it okay?
Yeah.
From Julia, Namo Buddhaya, Venerable. What lesson can we learn in time of crisis that we might not learn otherwise? Okay, once more. What lessons can we learn in time? Okay.
I got it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So I will answer the first question.
Okay, thank you.
Now, in Sri Lanka, mainly the crisis is a kind of economic crisis. It's nothing other than mismanagement. So it is a human-made, man-made problem, as I understand. So there was mismanagement, and also this mismanagement could be controlled in some way or other. But when this terrorist attacks and the COVID pandemic cases arose, then once again it was a huge blow on in Sri Lanka. In economical side. Now it's basically an economic crisis. The major part of it is the mismanagement, and also the terrorist problems and the COVID pandemic influence. Recently, the Ukraine war, etc., has influenced to make it worse. That is one part. But then in a Buddhist society like Sri Lanka, the beautiful thing I see is that even during this crisis time, people help each other, and they know that that I think the worst time has gone already. So when it was so painful for everyone, when they had no enough to live their normal life, the life they used to live. The beautiful thing I saw as a Buddhist society, not only Buddhists, we have Hindus, and we have the followers of Islam and Christian, the followers of Christianity and Catholic. But being a Buddhist country, all day, being Sri Lankan, they have a kind of influence. So there is this the feeling of kindness, karuna, feeling of generosity, dana. So everywhere in the country, we saw people help others more during this crisis time. Now, some people had no way to move, had no vehicle. So those who had the space in their vehicle, they got the commuters with their vehicles. Not only that, I think, actually that I saw from YouTube and other social media, very sad news are spreading. I was 1 month back in Japan, and there also people, our friends and devotees, they worried very much about. But the real situation, the real grassroots level, ground situation, I saw lots of activities of kind activities of metta and kindness, lots of activities of generosity. So if this crisis did not come, we could not have understand that our people, our neighbors, people in our society, they have such kind heart, such sympathetic heart, etc. Now, I think now at this time in this crisis, government was helpless, and government was for few weeks actually was almost not functioning, but everyone had their food, and those Sri Lankans who live in other countries, they sent medicine to Sri Lanka, and here they some people they share their properties, and they share their food, and they share their oil, etc. And some you know that I think it is heard for the first time in somewhere in the world that some gasoline stands, they made it like Danasala. They distributed all their oil to help people. If we had no such a cultivated heart with our people, being taught by Buddhism, the situation could have been more worse and more painful and more dangerous. Therefore, I was very happy to see when I went to the bed, I was very happy to see that everybody get at least some food to eat, some medicine with the help of others, and these kind of respecting humanity, the acts of kindness, mind of kindness, Sri Lankans cultivated, even though they are not the followers of Buddhism, the followers of other religions living in Sri Lanka, being Sri Lankan, they had this quality of generosity, kindness, respect for humanity. Those wonderful human qualities were evidenced during this crisis time. So there was a bit, of course, this experience was very bitter for everyone, but still we had many good things to learn with it. And I will move to the next question from Julia. What lessons can we learn in time of crisis that we might not learn otherwise? Actually, now this world, as Buddhism teaches, generally, naturally, this world is made of those 8 worldly conditions. 8 worldly conditions. If I say the Pali words, you may understand better that Sukha Dukkha, Ninda Prasansa, Labha Alabha, Yasa Ayasa. So, so our part is here. So we are experiencing the crisis. So how to say, Labha Alabha, Yasa Ayasa, Ninda Prasansa, Sukha Dukkha. These are called Atta-loka Dhamma. Atta-loka Dhamma, 8 worldly conditions. As we experience the heat and cold, wind, etc., naturally, generally, we have in our life to experience these 8 qualities. Now, you know, even in the countries where at present they don't have a crisis like this, still they are experiencing Labha, Alabha, Yasa, Ayasa, Ninda, Prasansa, Sukha, Dukkha. It is not something unique to a particular area or particular place. Wherever you are, if you are in the human world, if you are living a human life, if you are in the human society, in your life, you will have to experience Labha, Alabha, gain and loss, Yasa, Ayasa, fame and defame, Ninda, Prasansa, praise and blame, Sukha, Dukkha, suffering and happiness. So in the crisis time, we understand better that we are living in a world which is endowed with these 8 worldly conditions. So the Buddha teaches us that in the Mangala Sutta we learn Puttas Loka Dhammi Chittang Yasanakam. When we are touched by those 8 worldly conditions, if we are able to develop an unshaken mind, if we can live unshaken by those 8 worldly conditions, that is the disciple of the Buddha. That is the real disciple of the Buddha. So crisis time is very important because it teaches us the nature of the world better. Yeah.
Very brilliant answer, Venerable. As we are a lay person, we often say that when you are happy, you are, concerning music, when you're happy, you enjoy the music, but when you sad, you understand the lyric. It's not the same when you are confronted with the 8 worldly truth, the Attaloka Dhamma. Then it only enhances and focuses your understanding of reality and life.
Yeah.
Very brilliant answer. Now, I invite others in this Zoom and also in YouTube to raise questions to Venerable Pannaloka Thera. As you know, Pannaloka, Pratyaloka is the wisdom world, the realm of wisdom. So we are very blessed by His Holiness, His Venerable presence here. So don't waste any time you have to ask him question. For me, Venerable presentation is very clear, very systematic, and Venerable also can relate the basic and fundamental theory of Buddhism into our concrete problem of our lives. And noted that if you facing crisis, it actually focuses, strengthen your understanding of reality of life itself. Okay, maybe Bunda Yasoda, do you want to ask question? It's very rare, Bunda. Okay. Do you want to ask question? Any other? Okay. Okay, if I want to ask you question, Venerable, if still waiting others to pose question. Is there any trace of the work like Arya Ratni in Sri Lanka, the Sarvodaya Sramadana, in empowering people according to the teaching of the Lord Buddha, putting the teaching of the Four Noble Truths, Chattari Arya Satchani, into analyzing the social, political, and current crisis in Sri Lanka, for example?
Yeah, actually, Sarvodaya movement is a very much, how to say, grassroots level organization. They function at many levels, but they never come as a huge social movement. If I use the term like political movement, it never comes like that. So it always it functions at village level, and it helps grassroots level people, and it functions like kindergartens and preschools and how to say medical clinics, etc. And now, when I was small, that means about 45 years ago, at that time there were people who had no proper forms and sanitary facilities, etc. Then Sarvodaya was more active and contributing in that way. But now recently I have seen Sarvodaya has put efforts in educating people, how to say, those needy children, needy families, and in those areas, they are conducting seminars, classes, and giving these scholarships, etc. Now, as far as I know, at the moment, so far, I don't know whether they have a deeper analysis and approach in responding to the present crisis. But I know that with the help of their donors and how to say their staff, local staff, etc., they are working very hard in difficult areas, in remote areas, to help people. Uh, they also have something like think tank, some scholars in their group. But what they do normally is educating people and giving some proposals and suggestions to the governments that are coming into power. Like that, in its entire history, it never came as a huge social movement overthrowing existing political powers, etc. But one thing I have seen is that every government that comes into power, they understand that Sarvodaya is doing something always good to the society, good to people, to empower the lives of people. So they were very much help in whatever way they could. I remember that once the founder of Sarvodaya movement, it said that we are never strongly critical of what is here, but we mostly do what we can do for people, what we can do for the local communities, like that. So this is my understanding. According to my understanding so far, for the present crisis, they are at the level of helping needy people, like that.
Oh, such a noble endeavor, Venerable. Okay, so it is very interesting, Venerable, that the Four Noble Truths is not only can be implemented as from Vijja, Ditti, Vijja, and then to Charana practice to spiritual matters, but it can also empower us to see and then to analyze and then to propose strategies to solve the social problem. It's very noble endeavors, and maybe Indonesian people should learn from Sarvodaya. And Venerable may give us maybe insightful views later on Sarvodaya to us. Okay, there are many people. Okay, Venerable, if you want to add something.
Actually, like that. Now, you know that in Sri Lanka we have this Dhamma school system. Dhamma school system is that children, they come to temple, and in their Sunday mornings, and they learn Dhamma. They learn Dhamma. That from my personal experience, I saw that those young people who are in the Dhamma study in Dhamma schools, and who have finished Dhamma school studies, they thought that this is a time, this crisis is a good time for them to practice what they learn as a theory. I saw that kind of how to say response from young people, younger generation. So at their community level, village level, and even moving to far places, they were working, and they really thought now it's a very good chance for us to work in groups and work in communities, and to help them, like now, especially when this now in one time we had this COVID pandemic and this economic crisis together in one part. Therefore, this how to say, acknowledgement to people, how to say, how to prevent, and even we have this Ayurveda medical system. So with Ayurveda medical system, to develop kind of homemade remedies, homemade medicines. So such knowledge was very much distributed among people through volunteer groups, etc. So I saw that some young people taking it in a very positive way, that now we learn Dhamma from temple. Now it is a chance for us to return it to society as a gift, and this is a time for us to perform meritorious deeds. So that kind of Dhamma learning help the society in as a whole. If if really we are going to, I would say, make it analyze through the lights of Dhamma, that will be very much helpful. And actually, many groups now at university level and at the top level members of the Sangha, they are trying to do that as well, and analyze the crisis from the Buddhist point of view.
Okay, thank you so much, Venerable. Next is from Miss Chandra Dwi. I think Venerable know the meaning.
Yeah,
Chandra,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
The Chandima, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, please, Miss Chandra Devi. Dwi.
Okay, and I have a question, Venerable, and my
Yeah.
point of view is like people who like on Dhamma theory, but it's Buddhist. As I know, the Buddha's teaching is known as middle way, that mostly the teaching is talking about peace and uninvolvement to any kind of conflict. Sometimes the statement brings away people to decide to not contribute to fixing crisis and just stay in our comfort zone. Please give advice or insight to us about it so we can decide wisely and involve ourselves in solving the crisis mutually, especially in man-made crisis. Thank you.
Yeah, I think your question is related to what we discussed all together so far. Now, as I answered that, I think it's Julia's question earlier. That in one time or other, we will have a chance to opportunity to experience the Attaloka Dhamma in our life. Now, as it is done in Japan, I always recommend in a Dhamma school where we have about 5,000 children to do sports. Now, as a compulsory practice in their childhood. You know that in sports that they experience that win and loss are part of our life. Then how to face the win and how to face the loss. If we don't have that experience in life, when we go to the real life in society, people will not have, if they will never have had such feelings. Therefore, this the comfort zone is in a way quite a dangerous phenomena. If we, but there is no way out of comfort zone because we are used to that. There is a kind of social background, cultural background, then climate background, food, and everything that we are used to them. So once we go out of them, we find it difficult. We find it a crisis to cope up with those new situations. Therefore, if children practice well in sports, they will experience both win and loss in their feelings. Face the real life, they know that not only the win, but we have the times of loss in our life. So comfort zone is something like that. It is a dream world that one person in his dream world, he is the hero. No loss, always win, only happiness. Kings and queens only live in that comfort zone thinking. No, but the reality is not like that. Reality in the world is not like that. When we go to face the real experience of life, especially young people, it is very important for young people to know that if we naturally learn naturally learn, we have to be mature human beings to understand that this world is very much influenced by 8 worldly conditions. When we are children, we don't feel it because we are strong, we are happy, and we can get what we want. Still, when we are young, we have our physical power and can make a lot of achievements. But still, these 8 worldly conditions are affecting, involved in our life. So this, if you have a chance to read this Mangala Sutta, please read it very carefully from beginning to the end. It teaches how to organize a life, how to look at the life from childhood to mature life. When you are mature, the last few verses say that when 8 worldly conditions touch us, it means like wind touch us, heat touch us, cold touch us. Definitely, these 8 worldly conditions come to touch you. Then, by that time, if you have a developed mind, which is called unshaken mind, akampita hadaya, akampita manas, then you will be a strong person. But if you want to experience it when you are young, if you want to experience prematurely, then we have to go out of comfort zone. Then for that, I think one very useful tool is sports. In sports we understand, we experience, we evidence ourselves the win and loss. The similar feeling, similar feelings of win and similar feelings of loss we have to have many times in our life. That is the nature of human life. That is the nature of this very human life. It's a very beautiful thing to understand. You know that when your friend has lost his way or her way, so how we are going to guide them, how we are going to teach them, how we are going to teach the way out of the difficulties they are facing. Actually, pointing them, teaching them, explaining them these truths of life explained by the Buddha, truths of life taught by the Buddha. They are very helpful. That's why I strongly feel that Buddhism is a way of life. It teaches us how to look at ourselves, how to look at the world, etc.
Okay. Miss Chandratwi Jayanti, you have
Thank
to
you
go.
for
Okay.
answer, Venerable Buddhaya.
Nama Budaya. Okay, your last statement, Venerable, is very interesting because uh, the exposure to the inwardly life that touch us can make us understand life more. And that is very interesting. In the Japanese tradition of Budo, for example, in the martial art, when they practice the basic and then they do kumite, they do championship, they will learn winning and losing, and then after that, they will learn more about life. That's very important remarks from you, Venerable, and thank you so much. In Indonesia, we also have Buddhist Sunday School, Venerable. For your information, it was laid down by the late Venerable Narada Mahathera from Sri Lanka. Yeah. So I think the dissemination of Dhamma and the building of character for children, for our children, must be start from very early time. Yeah. Okay. And then maybe any other question? The third question. Yeah, the third one. I will read for you. Are there any Buddhist political parties in Sri Lanka? Are they really inspired the party maybe by the Buddha's teaching, or they just taking the advantage of the number of Buddhists for?
Yeah, actually, the question and answer both within your question. In the question, I can see both the question and answer. Okay. There are no Buddhist political parties in Sri Lanka. They use Buddhist names and they take the advantage of the number of Buddhists, as I understand. This is my my understanding and my response, there are good Buddhists in political parties. There are politicians who are good Buddhists, but they are not organized or influenced by the Buddhist way of thinking, Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist political philosophy, or Buddhist economic philosophy. In every party there are good Buddhists, and there are in every party there are opposites, and also as I feel personally, it is my response to this question. They are not governed by the real Buddhist political thoughts.
Okay, Mr. Toto, your question has both the seed of answer in your own question. Okay, next question, Venerable, is from our director, the first female director of Syailendra Buddhist College, Mrs. Kustiani, PhD, from your university. What do you think about the implementation of Dasaraja Dhamma in recent times, Venerable? Because there are many wrong political people and policies, and finally make the country and people suffer because of their wrong policies. Is it the sign of the end of this planet, or tanda akhir zaman in Indonesian language? Okay, Venerable.
Yeah, of course that Dasaraja Dhamma is a very good political, we should not say good, that should be the best, because it's the words of the Buddha. There were some political leaders in Sri Lanka, as we understood, that who wanted to follow at least some of those principles. But now one thing we have to understand, in global context, in global political and economical context, we are not free from the influence of other huge political powers. So, if this is my observation, if any political party is appearing themselves to implement those Buddhist principles, I feel that there are other international and regional political powers that influence and try to interpret that they are kind of extremists. Therefore, my understanding is that we have to take the Dasaraja Dhamma, the 10 principles of good governance or good politics, to to amend them, adjust them with the universally accepted principles of good governance. Now, there are universally accepted principles of good governance. So we have to study them comparatively, very, very carefully, that we are implementing not something which is purely Buddhistic, but it could be accepted by the peoples of other religions, people of other faiths, and people of other communities as well. If something is purely Buddhistic, that could give a wrong impression at the beginning to others. Therefore, at the beginning, we have to look carefully at the principles of good governance that are accepted at the universal level, and compare them with the Dasaraja Dhamma or other Buddhist principles of good governance, then follow them. For any country, I think this is the same, even for Indonesia, even for any other country. There are huge global political powers. They don't let you free to act your own. So if you try to act your own, then they will push you somewhere somewhere that you can't deal with. There are some how to say, critics who look at the present situation of Sri Lanka also in that way, because that, for example, Sri Lanka wanted to produce chemical-free food products, rice, vegetable, fruits, etc. Because we have nearly 30 kinds of rice, then 400 kind of fruits, 300 kind of vegetables, because we are a tropical country here. Many of them are lost during the course of history, because people get used to this chemical-based and then, how to say, market-oriented crops of rice, vegetable, fruits, etc. Now the recently fell government, it wanted to implement this principle that Sri Lanka to produce chemical-free rice, vegetable, and rice. You know that these chemicals are coming from huge multinational companies. Those companies who sell chemicals to us, they are very much powerful than the Sri Lankan government. So there are critics who look at this present crisis like that. So there were some unseen parties behind the screen who wanted to overthrow the government, because if my personal view is that the government was wrong in the sense that they should do it in one area first, in one district or one area first. Based on that success, they could have implemented in the whole country. If it was so, it could have been a success. But anyhow, the government at that time, they decided to do it in the entire country. So they are opponent forces. This is a very fine example where that you cannot decide the things of your own in your country. That there are other powers, other political powers, other business powers, economical powers, they can easily influence you. They always try to make your country, your place a market for them. So if that market is lost, then they will do whatever they can do to overthrow you. So we have to balance Buddhist thinking with that international atmosphere, because although we try to do something with pure thoughts, if the environment is not that kind, then we will be facing problems.
Oh, it's like an eye-opening explanation, Venerable Pannaloka Thera, and I think it can be related to Miss Chandra Dewey questions about if we know Buddhism, sometimes we'll say that upeka means we are not involved to mundane and secular or day-to-day life and all its problems. But you say that by doing your analysis like that, actually, maybe we can, this is the most interesting topic for me, is the socially engaged Buddhism. How we also bring the spiritual values, the teaching of Lord Buddha, to shed light on political, economical, for example, the multinational party, the unseen hands that govern and sometimes lead you and you have no choice. I think Buddhists should start learn about that. For example, the structural, what you call enslavement in economic policy. I think it's also very important. I have a question for you, Venerable, before the other raise their hand. What is the Buddha's teaching about the status of women and also the empowering of women? That's very important. For in our times, we have to involve everyone, not only male, but also female citizenship and all gender, I think. Okay, Venerable. What do you think about that?
I'm sorry, on the way I could not follow your question. Can you kindly repeat it?
Okay. What is what your opinion or Buddhist view about the empowering of women, the status of women? For we have to involve both male and female to work together to face the crisis that we face in our time, Venerable?
Actually, that is one lesson taught by the Buddha to the world, that empowering women, that in the Buddhist time, due to the huge influence of those age-old thinking and how to say religious teachings at that time, women were a kind of social group who were utterly helpless. Now, when we read Buddhist literature or any other Hindu literature, you see kings but no queens. You see those Brahmin pandits, but no women in them. They never became teachers. And you see these settlers, millionaires, and no such women entrepreneurs. Only the wives of the settlers. So in such a society where women kind were kept always under the control of the male domination, the Buddha very carefully came forward to give freedom and equal status to women. The Buddha granted freedom as well as equal status to women. Now, when you see, when they are in Hariput and Moggallana as Agasava, the main disciples, there are two female disciples, Kema and Uppalavan. So, given same social status, whether they are from, irrespective of the fact that what is the social background they come from. Right? Therefore, Buddha was the first teacher in India. Of course, this kind of thinking was there in Jainism as well, that freedom was given to women and equal was given to women. The wisdom, ability and capabilities and skills of women were accepted and respected. When the Buddha said that Sariputta, Venerable Sariputta is the best among preachers in the community of monks, then Dhammadina was best among Bhikkhuni preachers of Dhamma. So giving freedom, granting freedom and giving equal status and accepting and respecting the skills, knowledge, contribution, this was one of the great lessons taught by the Buddha to the world. Therefore, if we do the same, then we are simply following the Buddha.
Thank you so much. Very beautiful, Venerable Pannaloka. Maybe one last question from our lecturer, Pak Parsiono. Mr. Parsiono asks you, what is your opinion, Venerable, about the Z generation, our millennial generation, who conducting suicide because there is no followers and subscribers in his social media? Is it related to the Oga? And how to make our children immune to that kind of mentality?
Yeah, now you know that. Now, if we look at this practice from very beginning, now you know that in Sri Lanka, I'm not boasting. I just want to tell you the facts. In Sri Lanka, this rate of committing suicide is very low. People, whatever the difficulties they face, the rate of committing suicide is very low, because Buddhism teaches, if you harm your life, if you take your life, it is similar to taking another human life. When we commit suicide, it is taking a human life. It is similar to taking a human life of another. So maybe whatever the reason you have, then that is not the option that the person should take. Now, this model of development that is being practiced in the world, it brings lot of stress to human mind. There are huge buildings and highways, airplanes, airports, etc. But in such places, we see the rate of committing suicide is very high because the life is so stressful. So you reminded me of that ogre. Ogre means that it is a flow of thoughts from your mind. When it is very much strongly influenced by raga or the karma that can overcome the peaceful life. Bhava is kind of the existence, but that in a particular context, a person or being could think that only that particular being or group should exist, not the others like that. So it is a kind of org, right? That the flow of thoughts, we cannot control ourselves. Then that is a kind of org. The thoughts born within heart, they come to a dangerous and harmful level that we ourselves are not able to control them. Therefore, whatever the case may be, or whatever the cause may be, we have to give this general understanding that human life, the chance to live a human life is such a wonderful, beautiful chance we are having as a result of our good company. Maybe it is difficult. There are difficulties. We are among many difficulties. They are still human being. Life as human being is a wonderful chance. Where you see in the Dhamma, the Buddha says that being a human being, being born as a human being, is very, very rare chance that you get in this cycle of samsara. So this basic understanding we have to spread among through social media among these young people who are suffering from, how to say, unwarranted and unwanted difficulties made by themselves.
Thank you so much, Venerable. This is the real last question, Venerable, in chat room from Jason Spencer from Jakarta. Venerable, as we know, there are so many Buddhist traditions. What is your opinion about the narrow-minded bhikkhu who said that only my tradition is right and the other tradition is wrong? Or not, another is not taught by Lord Buddha, which actually both of these traditions have acknowledged by World Buddhist Sangha Council for both the teaching and history of both tradition, or even some Sangha community which is not acknowledged fully ordained monks from other tradition as Sangha members.
Now, actually, the main important thing is when I answer this question at other occasions, I say two things. One thing, know your tradition well first. Some people, those who want to criticize others, first they don't know their tradition well. Number one. Then know your tradition well first, and secondly, know the origins of Buddhism, original Buddhism, the real words of the Buddha. Now, it is a kind of teaching. It is spread through the ground. From central India, it went to North India. From North India, it went to some parts of China and beyond Nepal, etc. Then it went to further beyond, and through this ground expansion, it went up to Japan and Russia. So when it went through these lands, through many hundreds of years, it mixed with many cultures. Now, first, therefore, there are of course many Buddhist schools, many Buddhist traditions. If we are in one Buddhist tradition, we have to know our tradition well first. Second thing to learn is origins of Buddhism. How Buddhism began, where Buddhism began, what are the original teachings of the Buddha, what are the Buddha's own teachings. Then you will have these the complicated questions, and you will know how to look at with kind mind at others. So now we have our monasteries in Japan, in Hiroshima. So to that place, many Buddhists from Japanese Buddhists from many Buddhist schools, they come to listen. So we invite them, please follow your tradition as you used to do. We invite you to know what the Buddha originally taught. So you are free to learn freely the original teachings of the Buddha. Then you will understand there is original Buddhist teaching, there are historical developments, and there are other expansions. They were done in different geographical context and in different cultural context they developed. So actually, those differences are there not to fight with each other, but to understand each other. How you now same Theravada Buddhism practice in Sri Lanka in a different way, and in Thailand in a different way, and in Myanmar in a different way. So how beautiful is it that Sri Lankans have adjusted Buddhism in a Sri Lankan atmosphere. Thai people have adjusted Buddhism in the Thai atmosphere. Myanmar people, they have adjusted, amended Buddhism in their, but we are respecting the same Buddha. We are practicing the same Dhamma. We are trying to develop same peaceful mind. We are aiming same Nibbana. So we have different paths, but going to the same aim. These differences are there to understand each other, not to do anything else. To use the words carefully.
Okay, so it can be extended even to Mahayana and Vajrayana, right, Venerable?
Yeah. Of course, that now in my understanding, I am very happy to study Mahayana and Vajrayana. Of course, I don't have that time now, because Vajrayana and Mahayana are two branches that teaches us how Buddhist teachings came
I think Venerable Pannaloka, he lost his connection.
Okay. So, baik, karena Venerable Pannaloka lost his connection, mungkin ini Venerable Medan Cito sama Bu Gusti bisa menghubungi. Saya mau ngobrol dulu dengan teman-teman ini. Sangat indah sebuah webinar itu ketika hampir mencapai puncak itu kita akhiri sebetulnya ya. Kalau nanti Venerable bisa masuk, kita nanti ada closing remark. Tapi terima kasih sekali pertanyaan-pertanyaan yang diajukan itu betul-betul satu hal yang menurut saya itu membawa kita pada sebuah sebuah pemahaman yang lebih
There
jelas
was
lagi.
a connection problem, I think.
Okay. Venerable, please continue, Venerable. Venerable Pannaloka. Oh, hilang lagi ya?
Yeah.
Okay, Venerable, please.
There is a connection problem, I think.
Yeah, now it's okay, Venerable. You may go on. We lost your last words about the tradition of Mahayana and Vajrayana.
Thank you very much for your...
Yeah, okay. So, Venerable, according to you... Yeah, so we can extend this harmonious thinking and feeling even to our friends of Mahayana and Vajrayana, because it's composed the great family of Buddhism, right? Right, Venerable? Okay. Okay, Venerable, I think time is enough, so I want you to make a very short closing remark for our webinar. Kayak putus juga ya?
Yeah, and I think this is the time for Pak Bram to give the little summary in bahasa Indonesia, Pak Bram.
Iya. Kalau dalam bahasa Inggris sudah begitu jelas. Ini member of Sangha sama distinguished participant. Jadi yang disampaikan Venerable Pannaloka tadi, beliau berawal dari Diti, dari sangat fondasi dasar Buddhism yang beliau ambil adalah tentang paticca samuppada atau interdependence coexistence yang merupakan kausalitas, juga tentang dukkha dan bagaimana peranan kita sesungguhnya terhadap krisis moral. Jadi disampaikan praktis ya, sampai kepada masalah itu ada yang man-made, ada yang natural disaster, dan bagaimana kelemahan-kelemahan dalam diri kita juga itu di dalam menghadapi krisis itu juga sangat berperan. Bagaimana kita menyelesaikannya. Kalau tadi pertama saya berpikir ini sangat teoritis, tapi ternyata dibawa sampai ke ranah praktis, dan nanti terserah kepada kita bagaimana kita nanti menindaklanjuti ini lebih kepada isu-isu yang lain. Seperti yang disampaikan oleh Ibu Kustiani, ini adalah pejuang Sri Kandinya, ini direktur kita di Syailendra yang wanita, dan saya harap ke depan banyak yang wanita pengganti beliau. Nah, beliau ini mengempower wanita dan ekonomi dan sebagainya, itu masalah-masalah yang sangat konkret dan ini sangat-sangat penting. Teman-teman semua, saya pikir kemudian bagaimana Buddhism and Crisis, apakah masih bisa Buddhisme ini berbicara di abad kita pada saat banyak krisis? Nah, tadi Venerable mengatakan masih dong. Kenapa? Karena bahkan ketika tidak ada krisis,
if you can join, it is time for final remark. If you can join, you can join, but if not, no problem, because it is the final remark. So the webinar will be closed.
Apapun permasalahan yang sekarang ada. Saya pikir itu Ibu Kustiani dan terima kasih untuk Venerable. Thank you so much, Venerable Pannaloka, for your very wonderful presentation. And then I will give back the time to Miss Kustiani Wijawardene, PhD. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Pak Bram, and all participants. Please give the big applause to our moderator as well as our speaker, our session, our webinar. You make you the big applause virtually as well as directly. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. And one touching fact that already mentioned by Venerable Pannaloka is that in the midst of the crisis as well as in the bitter time, there are still many practices, many good practices, like sharing food, sharing medicine, etc. in Sri Lanka, and we should learn from that situation to everyone as audience on this webinar. Bapak Ibu, jadi ada satu fakta yang menarik di tengah krisis yang begitu luar biasanya sedang terjadi di Sri Lanka, masih saja bisa ditemui beberapa praktik kebajikan yang dilakukan oleh orang-orang di Sri Lanka, seperti saling berbagi makanan, obat-obatan, dan yang lain. Dan tentunya kita harus belajar juga dari situasi ini. Walaupun kita tentu berharap negara kita tidak akan pernah mengalami krisis separah dan menyedihkan dari krisis yang di Sri Lanka. And now, please to our secretary team to share the screen on behalf of the committee as well as the Syailendra Buddhist College. We would like to present the certificate of appreciation to our keynote speaker as well as the moderator. So please accept the certificate of appreciation to Venerable Dr. Jotidhammo Mahathera as our keynote speaker. And also, please accept the certificate of appreciation to Venerable Dr. Deniyaye Pannaloka Buddharakkhita Thera as our speaker. And also to our great moderator, Dr. Hastho Bramantyo, thank you so much. Please accept the certificate of appreciation. Thank you so much, Pak Bram. And before we end up our webinar, I would like to announce some information to all the participants. The share screen, please, to the secretariat team. And the announcement number one, for the participants who have problems in filling out the e-certificate link, please contact for Mrs. Sukita Devi on number 0838 7234 1987. And also to our brother and sister who would like to join to become the student in our college, new student registration is still open until 25th of August. To register, please contact to our staff on 0812-2784-0345. And the last one, on September 10, there will be a shadow puppet show at Syailendra Buddhist College with the title Buddharakkhita. It will be live streamed via YouTube channel STAB Syailendra. And before we end up our webinar, to all participants, please open your camera and we will have a photograph together. So please kindly open your camera and give the best smile. To Mas Gustria, our staff, take the photograph. To everyone, please be ready. I will sign 1, 2, 3. Again, on the next slide. 1, 2, 3. The last slide. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, everyone. And on behalf again of the committee as well as the Syailendra Buddhist College, we would like to apologize to our participants, to our keynote speaker as well as the moderator, if there are mistakes in organizing this webinar intentionally or unintentionally. We really hope that this webinar will shed a light in our academic, social, as well as spiritual journey. Last but not least, thank you for your attention. Thank you for your participation. We hope to see you again in the next Syailendra webinar series. Good evening, everyone, and Namo Buddhaya.